to Dogsplaining, where we break down what your dog is really trying to tell you. I'm Dana, a canine coach and holistic wellness specialist focused on nutrition, energy work, and essential oils. I'm on a mission for your dog to eat better, feel better, and live longer.
And I'm Angela. I'm your 456 wellness and behavior coach, focusing on helping you understand the connection between 4 paws, 5 elements, and 6 fun tricks.
We're here to help you connect the dots: behavior, food, health, and everything in between, with honest conversations and straight talking guidance.
If you're ready to get past the noise and actually understand what your dog needs you to know, you're in the right place.
The cloud, that's always safer. Hi, everybody. It's Dana Brigman, and I'm from the Well Old Canine and Canine Coach, and I have Daniela with me. I'll let her introduce herself in a second. And we're going to be talking about acclimating new dogs to the household, other dogs, the family, dog sitters, and all the things. So, Daniela, tell us about your business and yourself, and we'll get started.
Sure. My name is Daniela Angelone. I have been running Barks and Blooms here in Charlotte for about 11 years now. I started out on the business doing rescue work, and I did that for about 10 years prior to starting the business. So I've been doing a total of 20 years, 2 decades, which is a long time.
We're not that old.
Yeah, I know. I shouldn't give out that much information, but anyway. So yeah, I have some experience with rescue and then through fostering, and then of course through the business. So I can give perspectives on both, of course. Yeah. I'm excited to be here.
All right. So today we're going to talk a little bit about bringing in a new dog into the family. What that means to bring in when there are people in the home, when there are children in the home, and when there are other dogs or other pets in the home, because I think there's some layers to all of that. And I know from the rescue world, there's an important piece of that whole decompression, and we'll dig into that. But even in what I do, like I had a dog come stay for the weekend. In fact, I had 2 dogs. That's the whole point of the story. 2 dogs come for the weekend, and when they arrive, my dogs are out on the porch. I bring in that dog, let that one get settled. Not that they've never been here before, but I have a whole little system of come in, settle down, don't come in with all the crazy excitement. And the pet parents are like, oh, they'll be fine. And I'm like, I don't know that, and every time is different. And interestingly enough, this time the 2 dogs that were visiting, they just decided they were not going to be friends. And so I'm really glad that I slowed that whole process down and watched that happen through a barrier versus nose to nose.
Yeah. It's a safe way.
Yeah. So, and I don't think a lot of people really slow down enough. So we've probably all heard about the 3 days, 3 weeks, and 3 months. So those little decompression periods. And while I agree, I think some people think that's a check mark on the calendar.
Yeah. I think it's interesting because a lot of people treat their dogs like children in some ways, but when it comes to introductions, they don't really think of them as like you would a person. Like you wouldn't throw your child into another room with people you don't know, or and expect them to just play.
Right.
They might be confused or need some introductions, or just to know that this person's okay, that kind of thing. So I think it's just sometimes you have to really think things through, because you don't want to have to walk it back, if you have a problem. I think that's
and like I said, even if they've been there before, now I guess doggy daycares are a little bit different, but even if they've been there before, if they come in and they're all excited, I think that needs a few minutes to settle before they get released into the crowd, so to speak, right? just because we all have moods, we all have moments where
Yes,
it's
we
like,
do. We all do. And so do
yeah,
they.
exactly. And, even with Poppy, who over the years has been playful and friends with everybody, her aging now, she's like, I just don't even want to deal with these younger dogs. I just don't want to deal with it. She will tolerate them, but she's like, I don't want them in my face, So,
And you can't blame her, you
no,
know.
I'm the same way sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny because there are a lot of correlations between raising kids and raising dogs. Not saying they're the same, but and nor am I saying you should treat your dog like a kid or a person, but there's some analogies that come to mind. It does kind of apply. Structure, discipline, staying on top of them, supervising.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of slow introductions and
Right. And so for me, that first intro, there is typically always a barrier between them, whether that's a baby gate or an X pin opened up, or you go in a crate and you settle down for a little while. What are some of your processes, and what sort of is the recommendation out of the rescue space?
I can speak from my personal experience. Not this past Christmas, but I guess the Christmas prior, right after Christmas, I went and picked up 2 puppies from the shelter. It was a shelter that didn't get a lot of support. There were a lot of issues there. I knew that there were 3 puppies, and I knew one of them was already deceased from parvo, and I decided to go and get the one that was left. Understanding the risks. So I had a senior dog at the time, Brody, because we had lost our girl, Sasha, right around Christmas. So I kind of did it to kind of, I don't know, have that energy in the house. And I really did it for him because he's always had another dog. But he hasn't really been fully social with other dogs because Sasha wasn't social. So I guess, we didn't work as hard to socialize him. So when I brought him in, I knew that I was going to have to be careful, and I thought puppies would be the safest for him. And we put up, we had a crate in our kitchen and a huge, 2 layers of gates between the two so that they could not even really touch noses. They could just see each other.
Right.
Smart, and we wouldn't allow them to look at each other all day. We would just do it through intervals. A lot of positive reinforcement with that. Oh, good boy. You guys are when they're giving you good body language. But it was a process. I mean, we went through that. I don't think he even played with puppies till a month later. And I'm glad I did, because the first day he wanted to eat them.
Oh dear.
And that went on through a few weeks. And then eventually there was a turn, so we went from wanting to eat the puppies to now we're interested in them. So we just took things really, really slow. And when we did allow them to interact, we had him on leash, had them all on leash so we could control everything, had people there in case we needed help. But it went really well. But it only went well because we started things super slow. If I had just thrown these puppies on top of my senior and just expected him to be okay with it, it would have been a disaster. I have absolutely no doubt.
Right.
He probably would have harmed them.
Yeah. And I like the fact that you said when they did get together, everybody was leashed up. Right. And I think a lot of times people bring in a dog, and frankly, every new interaction is an unknown.
Yeah.
I'll be very candid with you. I had a worker come to my house the other day, and I just didn't like him. He gave off this weird vibe, and I'm like, I'm not liking you being here. But he was contracted by the people that were doing some work for me. I didn't choose him, but I still did not like him. And dogs read that kind of energy in people and in other dogs. And so even though we can be friendly, kind, polite, courteous 99.9% of the time, somebody rubs you the wrong way once in a while.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people just fling the door open and say, welcome home, puppy, or welcome home, shelter dog, and don't realize how bad that can go.
Yeah. It's like opening the door and saying, hey, here's your new roommate. And they just come in like wide open. And they're like, hey, this is my space. Then they get defensive. you know, and it becomes a problem. So I think the introductions are incredibly important. And I think you had suggested this to me a long time ago. It should be in a neutral setting, which is what we try to do. We start with walks so we can kind of build some rapport, you know, and that way they can associate doing something good with this other dog. And so then you have a positive association to build from. So that's really what I would recommend per your advice, because you've been a great resource for me. Is just to really start slow on positive interactions and build from there. And if you have a negative one, it's not the end of the world. You just peel back a little bit, go a little bit slower, and typically it usually works out when you do it that way.
And it's not just if you've adopted a new dog, right? Or acquired a new dog for the household. If your sister is coming for the holidays with a new dog or their dog or whatever, that greeting in neutral space is still important. Leash everybody up, go outside, take a little walk around, decompress in the yard, do all the hugging and things, and really let them get acclimated and settled before they come in the house, and then still have those barriers. And I tell a lot of people, if your sister or grandma or whoever with their little dog is coming for the weekend or the holidays, those dogs may not be friends. They may not want to be friends. And it's okay if they are never out together. A crate and rotate for the holidays is perfectly acceptable. And if you can't do that, call Daniela for pet sitting.
And don't show up with don't just show up with your dog.
Right. Exactly.
You know, have a little respect for, you know, the homeowner and, you know, obviously the pets that live there, because you don't want them to feel like, hey, who's this newcomer? Because it can ruin the whole day. You know, if you're having to juggle all these, if you don't have a plan in place, you can always plan ahead.
Right.
So,
yeah. Okay. So that's sort of that initial greeting. And then, you know, I think anytime you have a new dog, even if they're the only dog, right? Then they're coming into the family. They're like, where have I landed? How did I get here? Who are these people? What is the energy of the household, especially if there are children or certain energies or certain behaviors from some of the members of the household? They need a little time to observe, to watch and get the lay of the land, get the routine, get all of those things, and start to feel a little bit comfortable.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think as they become more comfortable, you'll start to see more pieces of their behavior come out.
That's
their personality. Right. So in other words, we had the puppy. So we ended up keeping one of the puppies. We adopted one and we kept the other one because I got the opposite of what I had in Sasha. I've got a dog that has no self-confidence, you know. Oh. So we're really trying to work on that. It took us a long time to get him out of a shell, but I'd say he had about an 8-month decompression. And that was after a sibling got adopted. There were 2 males and one was more dominant. And we didn't really get to see his personality until we split them up. Because he was being kind of drowned out by his more exuberant sibling. You know, he had no personality. You didn't know you couldn't get to know him. You know, anytime you pet him, the other dog would come over. So
he took a little back seat to it, and so he didn't have a chance to shine. Yeah,
so that was a long decompression.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and you know, sometimes the opposite is true. Is they start to get the lay of the land, and they're like, nobody's running the house, so I will.
That's right. I know some people with that problem right now.
Yeah. So is that something you want to share, how they landed there or what happened?
Yeah, well, I'll just tell this. I won't bring up names or anything, but someone that, you know, is very busy, got a puppy. They had lost their dog. You know, did I feel like it was the right timing for them? No, but it's really not my say. You know, I did tell them, I think you should wait because puppies are a lot. They need a lot of exercise, a lot of attention, a lot of training in the beginning. And they adopted a very large Great Dane mix that ended up being a pretty big dog.
Yeah.
But they had not laid any sort of foundation of training there. So as this dog approached adolescent age, around 1, now he's getting growly with people when they get on the couch because he's been on the couch this whole time. The owner's not there very much. The kids are teenagers. They kind of let him do whatever he wants to do. And now he's growling and deciding, hey, he runs the house now. And that's a big problem. You don't want it to get to that place, you know. Of course, you can still work on it from there, but hopefully you're working on that on the front end.
Yeah. So as you were saying that, it also reminded me that when we have a new dog, you know, we mentioned that 3 weeks, 3 months. What is it? 3 weeks, 3 days, 3 months?
Mm-hmm.
Backwards, but you get the point.
Yeah.
In my head, it's sort of all of the firsts. What is the first experience of fireworks, because they're coming up soon, or the kids are out of school when we got a dog in February and now they're home all summer with the friends coming and going, or the first holiday where the grandma comes with her dog. You know, all those firsts are a new thing to acclimate to.
Mm-hmm. First day back to work.
Exactly. And so I think a lot of people don't pause and think about that. Dog's great until he's not, and then because there's some new first experience.
Yes, I completely agree. I had a thought and it completely slipped my mind, but it'll come back. But yeah, I think that is a huge thing, and planning and just making sure that you kind of ease into that. I think it's important. I think even if you leave the house for 5 minutes, come back, leave it for 20, come back, and gradually extend that, you know, rather than just abruptly leaving your dog all day after being home all summer. You know, those are things you want to work towards, especially if they're new first type situations.
Exactly. And I think you can speak to this from the first time they're left with a pet sitter, but I also liken it to the first time you take them to doggy daycare. You don't take them to doggy daycare and leave them for a week. You take them to doggy daycare for an hour. See how they do, you know.
And Dana, I want to ask you a question about this because I'm curious what your opinion is on this. What I do see a lot is people that go out and maybe they adopt a dog from a rescue, or let's say they adopt and they bring the dog into their house and they're not perfect right away, right? A weekend, let's say they've been there for about a week, and next thing I know, they're shipped them off to board and train for 2 weeks. I personally feel that the dog needs more time to get adjusted to home before being introduced to more things. But I'm curious how you feel about that, because I'm not the trainer expert.
So I've always said every transition can be a setback. The dog's like, I don't know where I'm going to land next. Is this a stable environment for me to be in, right? Am I going to get bounced around? I think that is especially true for the dog that had a home, landed in the shelter, landed in a rescue, landed in a new adoptive home, and then to ship them off straight away, I don't think is the right answer. I used to do board and train, and I think there's a time and place for that. But even with the reactive dogs, I think if you ship that dog off to have that done, have that training, and then you hand that leash back to the handler without that aftercare we talked about last time, it's not going to stick, right? Because the owner still has all those emotions. But I think it creates a lot of instability for the dog. Now, if you are sending them off to bird dog school, that's a different conversation. Because most pet parents can't train that. We can simulate a lot of things, but you're going to send them off to really learn to bird. That's a very different conversation. But those dogs are typically not the shelter dog or the rescue dog. They have been bred and purposely built to do that. So they have a lot more ground.
They're more incentivized to go and partake in that.
Correct. Exactly.
Yeah.
No, I'm not a fan of them being bounced around and then quickly heading off to training, because what was the point? What was the point of landing in your house for 2 weeks?
I just feel like the dog is already came from one foster where they had to learn that process in that home, right? And those rules with other dogs.
Mm-hmm.
And now if a homeowner or an owner says, I'm having these kind of issues with these behaviors, but this wasn't happening at the foster home. And I said, well, that's because you have a new house. You have to reteach in your home and give them a chance to get settled, get adjusted, and build a bond with that dog. I'm not saying you have to wait months or whatever, but I mean, at least wait a little while so they can decompress. You can build a little bond with them, start out kind of working on that before
Well,
you just kind of uproot them to somewhere else. I think it's
I
confusing.
agree. And I think it depends on the foster home. If you landed in my foster home years ago, right, it was structured.
Mm-hmm.
It was a pack. The pack was balanced. And there's no better trainer, literally no better trainer than another balanced dog. Right? It just is.
Yeah.
So if they land in your house and they've lost that pack, they've lost the structure, your house is more chaotic with children screaming or grandma with dementia or whatever that is, the realities of life, that dog lands differently. So yeah,
Yes.
behaviors are totally possible to present in a new environment that were never present
Mm-hmm.
in the foster home. And that's just a matter of all these acclimation periods we're talking about.
Yeah. And the dog I see a lot of anxiousness, and I feel like, sometimes that is natural, coming from one place to another and being thrust into a new home. I think, and that does resolve usually. But I guess I just feel like dogs should have a chance. Like, if you really should allow them to look around at their surroundings, get a little comfortable, know where they're going to sleep. Who are you? Who are these dogs in this house? They're not the same as the other ones. There's just so many components that go into that behavior that
For sure. And it's also depending on how long was that dog actually in a foster home.
Mm-hmm.
If they were there for months, they just feel like everything was uprooted. Everything
be
is
a lot
now
different, months versus weeks or even days.
Yeah, everything is unstable again now. So this may be their second or third or fourth transition, which to the dog feels like abandonment.
Yeah.
Or anxiety. I have really started studying the nervous system, including my own, because mine is fried. And I'll give you an example. We should talk.
Yes.
Get yourself a vibe. They're fantastic. And they're great for the dogs too. But I'll give you an example. I visited somebody over the holidays, and I was gone for longer than I should have been, because I was out of my element. I was out of my home.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't that they weren't kind or lovely people. It's just I had had enough. I reached a point where I need to go home.
Yeah.
So when I think about that from a dog's perspective, they've landed somewhere new that may be a in-home pet sitter, meaning you bring them into your home, or a new home that's going to adopt them, or a trial run, right? Mm-hmm. We see those all the time. And the dog just doesn't feel at home. They didn't land and go, this is my space. It's going to take time to get there and to work through that through leadership and training and walks that are and engagement games, play and activity that are engaging with their new people. If you're taking that dog for a walk and you're on the phone, that's not engagement. That's just we're moving together, but not necessarily building a relationship.
Yeah.
All of that matters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we have situations where, we do have clients that foster, and we really start things. We really try to get information from them about the dog, where the dog came from, and just where they are in their process, and then from there we try to continue that process or support that process better. But there are times where we will see dogs separately within the same home, just until they're fully acclimated. We try to support fosters and foster homes as much as we can, because they're like gold and incredibly rare, hard to find. And especially a good foster, somebody that's very educated about things. And any foster is a good foster, but one that
even a first time
Dana.
even a first time foster means well.
Yes, of course
but they've got a lot to learn also. And so in my head, this ties back to a session that Angela and I did a few weeks ago that we titled Through No Fault of Their Own. How many times over the rescue years have you seen a dog returned through no fault of their own?
All the time.
Well, what happened? Did we make a poor match? And sometimes that happens. I mean, if you think of humans who go on dates, we don't all match, right? But sometimes as we didn't build the relationship, sometimes the dog's nervous system or whatever simply cannot tolerate the level of energy or lack of exercise or whatever it may be. The two dogs are simply incompatible. The pack is unbalanced. Whatever those things are, those all lead back to through no fault of their own. But I think, and I get it, this is in no way negative against the rescue space.
No.
Please don't misjudge anybody who's listening to this.
I just
It's hard. It's super hard. But I think if we really focus on that dog and the matching process, we can sometimes see that their nervous system is not going to be one that fits that household. And so a lot of times they do know that. They get that right more often than not, but that is part of the equation.
I think what people forget too is like dogs are so energy driven, they totally pick up on your energy. If you think you've bitten off more than you can chew, and you're stressed about a new puppy or a new dog in your home, your dog is going to feel that in some way or another. And that will impact how they do there. Some people, imagine if you had a baby, let's just say a human baby, and you're able to give it back. Like if it didn't work, I think a lot of people would probably do that. It's hard, I'm kidding, but it's like, I think people are too easy to give up on their dogs when you got to give it a day, 2 days, 3 days. I mean, less than 24 hours.
Not enough. And also, you got to look at the breed, their past experience. Again, did they come from the shelter as a stray, as a complete unknown? Did they spend a year in the shelter? That's a whole different conversation. Did they spend a year in a foster? I had some fosters that were with me that long, right? I mean, it's a whole thing. And so if you bring them in and say, welcome home, go do you, and you're not embracing the breed, you're not embracing that transition, you're not engaging and truly focus on building the relationship, all of that matters. All of that is going to be a factor in the success or failure.
Especially the energy expenditure, which I really try to guide people to rescue when they look to adopt, just because I try to explain that the rescues typically do all that work for you. They do want you to have the best match.
Of course.
Because they want the adoption to be successful. They don't want to get a dog returned.
Yeah.
So I think, and they kind of flush out all those things too. Like when you get a dog from the shelter, it depends on the shelter. Some shelters have a lot of volunteers that can give you a lot of information about that dog. So you might already know a lot, but some don't. So the ones that don't, fosters do that for you. So if the dog's been there for a period of time that's, outside a few weeks, they usually are going to know a little bit more about the dog to be able to help you determine if that dog's a good fit in your home. So I think that's where rescues are incredibly beneficial for people.
Agreed. I mean, what would we do without them? Thank God they exist for sure.
Yeah.
But look how many marriages fail, right? Or friendships fail after some period of time. You think it's going to be a good date, and you're like, that was
Everything requires effort, right?
that was terrible. So yeah, I mean, all of that is relevant, but when you
Yeah.
get a dog and it comes in, if you are not truly building the relationship and the structure that that dog needs to fit into from the ground up,
Yeah.
from day one. And I tell people the moment you pick up the leash, you are training that dog in some way.
Mm-hmm.
You're
Either
not,
good or bad.
huh?
Either good or bad.
For sure.
Yeah.
And if you are not creating through structure and leadership and scheduling and gameplay and all of those things, the dog you want to get out of this, you're not going to get that dog. Meaning they won't become what you want if you don't nurture that.
100%.
So
Absolutely.
anyway, all right. Well, anything else to add about? I mean, we've covered the first day and the year of first and all the things.
I think just taking it slow and just having healthy respect for your dogs and knowing that they were there first, and just trying to be respectful of that, and think about how you would feel.
Yeah.
If somebody new was thrust in your environment, you would want a little time too.
I actually have 2 documents out on my training website. One is adopting a new dog, and it kind of covers a lot of the things that we just talked about. Even down to like feeding schedules and how you manage. I mean, yes, a dog can come to you and be a resource guarder. You can also create a resource guarder if you don't do things appropriately, but you can learn to prevent one as well. We can prevent as many things as get created if we create the right structure and plans and all those sorts of things. So anyway, one is we've adopted a new dog. How do I introduce them into the household? And what do I do with that dog? And the other is, how do I introduce them to the pack? I've brought them into a pack. And that's a whole different conversation.
It is. And you brought up food, and that's another good point. That's another first. It's like food is incredibly important to manage with having a new dog in your home.
Yeah.
You want to feed separately, and I had that challenge here because our puppy's a grazer. I've never had a grazer. But if he's not eating, I pick it up because we have another dog, and there's been a couple of seconds where somebody's not looking and all of a sudden there's a tiff breaking out because
my rule, and I supervise, but my rule is your food bowl goes down. It may be in your crate, it may be together depending on the dogs, but they are 6 feet apart and I'm standing between, kind of thing. Food bowl goes down, you get 15 to 20 minutes to eat it or don't, I don't care, unless you're sick, or a puppy, that's a different conversation. But at the end of 15, 20 minutes, that food bowl is gone. You can't guard a bowl that's not on the floor.
True. And when I had Sasha, she would guard that bowl all day if I let her.
Yeah.
I just pick it up. So
I pick them up. And I also teach them not to guard from me. I teach them that's your bowl, that's Poppy's bowl. The two shall not intertwine. When you're done, get out.
Yeah. And I think being a good leader too is important.
Totally.
Yeah, because otherwise it's like a free for all. And they're gonna, you throw in another one in the mix.
Right.
It's just
Listen,
complete chaos.
if I'm sitting down at dinner with you and you reach across to stab my food, I'm gonna stab you with my fork.
Right.
So is that resource guarding?
That's
yes. But I'm not gonna let you do that to my plate. I mean, there are people who share everything with you. I'm not one of those. Don't eat, and I'm not So.
It's true. Food's incredibly important. Even treats, or because we have one that just likes to hide treats. And I'm like, it's not going to work around here.
Right.
But yeah, I think feeding's important. I mean, really, your routines, everything. I think it's incredibly important to start things off on the right foot.
Yeah. And then, the couch. Are you going to let them on the couch, or are they going to sleep in the bed? Let me tell you, the first time you growl at me or anybody, your privilege for that is over.
Taken away.
Done. Not getting it back.
Yeah.
So these are all things that matter. I think you mentioned the family that you're talking about, and the dog decided he was in charge, that the couch was his. Oh, no, 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 no. But see, when I bring a dog in, you're on a leash. This is one of the things Angela and I have also, and I think you might have mentioned it recently, but
Yeah.
tethering a new dog to you is one of the best things you can do. If you get on that couch and I tell you off, I'm not going to reach for your collar, no matter who you are. Now, Poppy, I would, or Harvey, I would, but a new dog, not a chance.
No.
Not a chance.
I'm also not going to pet that new dog.
Yeah, I'm not reaching for that collar to tell you to get down. But if I've got you on a leash, I can get down and get 6 feet from you and guide you off.
Yeah. I think that's the trickiest thing people don't realize, because in our business, we've had situations where we've taken on a new dog and maybe they don't have a fenced in yard, and we have to figure out how we're going to clip that leash and reach, because we're going to have to reach around their neck. So I usually ask that they put a harness on so it back clips at least, so we can maybe put a treat here and clip in the back while we're doing that. But no, I don't want to reach for a dog. Like a new dog, I don't care if it's friendly, I don't want to reach for its neck. Even if they get slightly nervous, I feel like that's too much too soon. That's just how, but sometimes we don't have a choice. So we have to kind of work up to that.
Yeah.
But, that's one of the things. And also just, not every dog likes to be pet or hugged. And, and
Right.
that's a very human characteristic. Like,
For sure.
definitely I wouldn't recommend hugging any dog or.
No. And I mean, I have over the years had many a foster and many a training client where, yeah, I could leash them up, or I'm a big fan of slip leads, right? And I'll make like if they're in their crate, I'll make a big loop so that the only way they come out is their head goes through, and I cinch it up on the way out, right? I mean, that's easy. But where I did not attempt to pet them, I didn't reach out, I didn't offer you a treat, I don't make any hand movements your way.
Yeah.
Until you move to me.
Yeah.
And I had a dog, God bless her. I think her name was Sarah, Black Dane mix. I can see her. When we went to pick her up, she was in the back of my SUV. She wasn't coming out. She's like, I'm not getting out of this car. So we literally backed my car into the fenced in yard. This is when I lived near you. Backed my car into the fenced in yard, closed the gate, opened the hatch. It took her about 2 hours to come out.
You probably never get her in.
I thought, we're never going to get her in the house. But
that's the other thing I think about. How are we going to get this dog back inside?
She was on a long line, thank good, because we had planned ahead. She was on a long line, and she paced the yard, and she'd get as far away as me she could. But I finally got, I think it was 10 or 15 feet leash, got the end of the leash, so we still had that much distance, and enough space, enough pressure and release technique got her into the porch. It took about 2 weeks before that dog would ever approach me. She stayed on that long line all of the time, which is a risk, right? Especially if you're trying to have them somewhere that they could get tangled up. Yeah. But she was not unsupervised. But about 2 weeks in, I remember this as clear as you and I are talking today. I was sitting on the porch, laptop or book or something, and she came and laid her head in my lap. But it took her that long to trust me.
Yeah.
And most of that trust was built because I put no pressure on her.
You didn't push her. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We never want to push a dog to a bite. That's why we don't do it.
There's an energetic frequency that goes through that leash.
Yes.
But that was the only pressure she ever had.
Yeah, I think it's important to, that's something we also think about if people do have a yard and we're able to get them out into the yard, then how do you get them back in? And the most effective thing we have found is to go stand at the back of the yard and they'll usually go in because they're looking to get away from us.
Mhm.
So if we're at the back of the yard, then usually they'll feel comfortable enough to go in, but it can be hard to get them back in. You
Yeah.
have to be really patient. But it's about building trust, and that's how you build trust, by not pushing them out
Yeah.
of their comfort zone.
So I guess one thing that I would just say as I think about wrapping this up is if somebody does get a new dog, whether you've bought one, adopted one, grabbed one from the shelter, found it stray, whatever the situation may be, before you give up, have a conversation with someone like you or me or Angela, even a different someone than the last foster, just a new, fresh perspective as to what else could be tried and implemented to maybe take some of that pressure off, or to allow that decompression to happen in a different way, not necessarily better, just different, that somebody else may not have thought of yet.
Yeah, and it's and also because the home environment's so important. You want to get someone else's perspective sometimes on maybe how to set things up so they're less, scary for a new dog.
Yeah. I would say 99% of the time I can figure it out from a conversation, but I can always figure it out when I walk in the room.
Yes, and I will say this applies to cats too. Cats need acclimation as well.
Yeah.
I can speak to that. So, but yeah, I think that's great advice.
Yeah.
I really do.
Anything else you would add?
No, I just take it slow. Have some patience, and really research the breed and or what you know about the components of the breed. I feel like it's really about getting to know your dog. It's like a discovery journey.
Mm-hmm.
That's really what it is. You bring them in, and you go on a journey figuring each other out. That's what it's about, and just making it low pressure,
And that's the key.
and not negative.
The dog is trying to figure you out too.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And they're reading every move.
Every move. Yeah. So, all right. Well, this was good topic. So
Good to talk to you, Dana.
Good to talk to you. So tell people, you're based in Charlotte. So tell people how they could reach you if they need your services.
Text our main line to 980-938-BARK or 2275. Text is usually quicker for us just because we're usually out and about, and we're able to answer that quickly.
Gotcha.
But it's I'm sorry, 980-938-BARK, just like a dog, or 2275.
Awesome. And it's
Daniela,
Barks and Blooms, North Carolina. Barks and Blooms NC. Right?
Yes, and we're in Charlotte.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Well, thank you.
Well, thanks for having me on again.
My pleasure. We'll do it again.
Yep. We'll see you next time.
We'll do it again.
Listening to Dogsplaining, we know you've got a lot of choices when it comes to dog advice. We appreciate you trusting us to keep it honest and helpful.
If today's episode helped you understand your dog's needs more clearly, share it with someone who may also need to hear it. And don't forget to follow or subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
For more resources, visit us online or join the conversation in our community. We'll be back soon with more insight into your dog's behavior, health, and wellness. Questions welcome, and we love guests.
Until then, keep listening to Dogsplaining.